Janine Cozy here with Edible Landscapes. I sent out a message last week on Instagram asking what people would want to learn about if they were just starting out gardening. And the one response kind of blew my mind a little bit. So Taryn, if you're watching this, thank you. It really got me to thinking about what people need to really get started. The information that you find out there can be so daunting. Whether you want to do organic or non-organic, raised beds, tilled beds, plant in rows, really diversified plantings, and whether even with soil mixes, you'll probably find dozens of different answers if you try to research them. So today, I want to take a step back and first of all, just let you know that it's okay to be a beginner. In every other field that you can possibly imagine, no one expects you to be an expert the first time you do something. I thought back to when I started to breastfeed my children. At the time, a very well-meaning friend gave me a 500-page book on breastfeeding. And I remember looking at that book and going, this is way too complicated. I'm gonna set that aside, and thank you, that was very kind. I'm gonna set that aside, and I'm gonna just try this. And as I experience issues, I will look up each individual issue in this book and solve what comes up. That way I need to solve maybe 1 or 2 issues instead of 500 pages of issues. Gardening is the same way. We can just start, and as you encounter little hiccups or little problems, look things up then. Okay, so starting a garden is very basic. There are actually only 4 things that you're going to need. You're going to need some seeds or some bedding plants. You can start both ways. We'll go over that in a second as to how you would decide whether you want seeds or bedding plants. You need soil, you need water, and you need sunshine. That's all you need to garden. So we'll go through each one of these just to see how simple we can make this process. So with seeds or plants, basically, if we're talking about the vegetables that people would grow most commonly on the prairies, with seeds, you may want to start things like carrots or peas or beans. They're all pretty simple. They grow really easily. With plants, I would recommend if you want to grow anything like tomatoes or peppers, you don't need to start seeds indoors. That's like the next level, okay? When we're starting, just buy some plants. Go to Canadian Tire or Peavey Mart or Dutch Growers or Unique Gardens or any particular garden center and pick up some pepper plants and some tomato plants. They'll probably sell them in a package of 6, which is probably more than you need. Share with your friends. But this will make your life so much easier. If you start with even those 5 plants, you're gonna get some kind of food. Now, even the most experienced gardener, who has maybe been gardening for 60 years, still has years where things fail. Don't worry about it. Just celebrate your successes. When you take the seeds and you put them in the ground, they turn into a plant that actually makes food. That's a really exciting thing. Enjoy that moment. Enjoy babying those plants and watching them grow. Just enjoy the whole process, because there are going to be years, especially as you get better and better at this, there's going to be years where some things just won't come up at all. Maybe you had a bad batch of seeds. Maybe you need to tweak something. That's fine. We can learn as we go. We don't need to worry about all those things right off the bat. So when we're looking at the seeds, it can be really this simple. Take your next item, which is soil. Whether it's soil in the ground, if it's kind of hard, maybe rake it a little bit, add maybe a bag or 2 of some pre-packaged soil from the store. Does it matter what kind? Not really. Take anything that resembles soil. Put it on the ground, in a box, in a container. That part doesn't matter either. Just contain the soil somehow. run your finger through the soil. Take your seeds, place them kind of spread out a little bit in the soil. The seed packages will usually tell you how far apart they need to be and how deep you need to plant them. But the general rule of thumb is if the seed is large, plant it deeper. If it's a small seed, plant it shallow. And if it's somewhere in the middle, plant it somewhere in the middle. So after you make your trough, put your seed in, take the soil, cover it up, pat it down a little bit, water it every day. With the bedding plants, let's say you buy a tomato plant or a pepper plant, just take your soil. I usually just use my hand. You can use a trowel, you can use a spoon, I don't really care. Take your hand, dig a little hole, take the plant, stick it in the hole, put the soil back up to the plant, push down a little bit, and water it. That comes to our third point, the water. Water daily, keeping the soil kind of nice and moist until something green starts to pop out. Now, I would recommend the first time that you're planting anything, just plant in rows so that it's really easy to see if you have weeds or not. You're gonna notice if you have 30 plants coming up in a row that all look the same, and there's 1 or 2 outliers that don't look the same, chances are those are gonna be weeds, and it's gonna be easier for you the first time that you're growing something. So until the green things start popping out of the ground, keep the soil kind of moist every day, give her a little sprinkle of water. Doesn't matter what kind of water. Doesn't matter if it comes from a hose or a rain barrel or anything. Just put some water on the garden. That's all you need to do. Once the green things start popping up, then at that point, you can water a little less frequently. If the ground starts to crack and split open, you probably need to water a bit more. If your plant looks like it's like drooping and wilting and miserable, maybe water a little bit more then too. If your soil is so wet that there's puddles sitting on top and it never really dries out, maybe water a little bit less. Kind of go by feel. The plants honestly aren't that fussy. Next, sunshine. When you find your little patch of soil, or you make a bed somewhere, just make sure it gets some sunshine. Honestly, like half a day. I don't care whether it's 6 hours, 8 hours, 5 hours, 12 hours. About half a day of sunshine is enough to grow pretty much everything. And that's it. If you follow those rules, you will produce food. Simple as that.